To bring in focus, the feature on the show today. Now, tax systems in Nigeria. Tax administration in Nigeria is vested in the 3 tiers of government. This includes taxes payable to the federal government, administered by the Federal Inland Revenue Services, while those payable to state governments are administered by the state boards of internal revenue of 36 states of the Federation. Local governments also administer rates and levies collectible by them through their various councils. Now, there are a good number of taxes payable by persons doing business in Nigeria, such as value-added tax, companies income tax, personal income tax, capital gains tax, education tax, technology tax, stamp duties, and withholding tax penalties are imposed for failure to pay taxes when due. However, companies operating in Nigeria have over time raised alarm over a harsh operating environment, citing tax multiplicity as the biggest threat, halting growth of businesses. Nigeria's tax compliance rate is significantly low compared to other countries, especially given the weak revenue administration capacity to deal with the evasion and lack of data, mainly around the informal sector. As part of objectives of creating a conducive business environment in Nigeria, some initiative required to boost tax compliance includes automatic registration for taxes upon incorporation, implementation of an integrated tax system which will enable taxpayers to file tax returns and pay their taxes online. Reforms in the Federal Inland Revenue Services to ensure that issues raised by taxpayers are dealt with on a timely basis. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Federal Inland Revenue Service and certain state internal revenue service of the respective states issued tax palliatives, such as extension of filing deadlines, reduction in tax rates, suspension of the field tax audit and investigation exercises, utilizing digital platforms to file returns, reduce filing requirements, and all of that. Now, joining me to discuss tax systems in the country and others, everything that has to do with taxation today, is Mr. Olufunso Ola-Ojo. He's the Director of Tax and Regulatory Services at Mazars, Nigeria. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
First, let's start with examining our tax system. Yeah. I know a lot has been done by the national policy. There was a committee to review our tax policy, and all of that. Now, at the moment, what would you say about the current position of the tax system in Africa's most populous nation?
All right. What has happened is the national tax policy has actually been reviewed, and the committee that was set up released their report a long time ago. So key objective of the review was to streamline tax payments and tax administration, and the focus was to shift taxes more to indirect taxes than direct taxes. So that's the reason why. There's more reason why the amendments to the Finance Act actually granted waivers to some forms of direct taxes that are paid by different types of companies, and companies have gotten reliefs on a lot of direct taxes. And I would say that the increase in VAT rates, which is a type of indirect tax, was actually aimed at achieving that purpose of shifting the tax focus of Nigeria to indirect taxes. And more recently, the Stamp Duties Act, which is also a form of indirect tax. So you can see that the government is actually making efforts to move away from direct taxes to indirect taxes, and that's what achieved the national tax policy objective. Okay,
so when we are moving to the indirect tax system, is that another way of expanding that net that we always talk about? Expanding the tax net. We know that tax to GDP ratio has been around 6% in this part of the world. That's not too impressive.
Not too impressive, very abysmal when you compare to other countries, even in Africa. The average rate in Africa is about 17%. Some other countries in the world do up to 60%.
Wow.
Yeah, to GDP ratio. So it's very abysmal for Nigeria, being the most populous nation in Africa. And but I would say that the shift to indirect taxes will ultimately expand the tax net. and that is because everybody that consumes goods and services will get to pay taxes. So whether you earn, irrespective of whether you have paid tax on your income that you have earned, so you will get to pay indirect taxes. So when you shift focus to indirect taxes, you get more people to pay taxes. So, but ultimately, that would not, by itself, expand the tax net, because there is still a lot of people in the informal sector that we actually need to deliberately target.
You've touched on VAT, stamp duty. These are the recent ones that we really heard a lot about,
yes.
From 5% to 7.5%, and also talking about the stamp duty. We've seen what's been happening with NIPOST and FRS as another issue. Now, what are all these positives indeed? Because I saw a report saying FRS made, I think, 3 billion or so.
On a weekly basis.
On a weekly basis.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. So in fact, up until May, the report I saw up until May, FRS has generated about 60 billion naira.
Oh my God.
6 billion naira in stamp duties alone. And of course, this is from several transactions that the rate applies to. So, but again, looking at the scope of the Stamp Duties Act, I would want to say the scope is too encompassing. It's because, and that is why people are actually making so much noise about it, because stamp duties also exist in many other countries of the world. So, but stamp duties is actually focused and targeted at specific transactions. Most common ones are land transactions involving sale of shares and capital. So, but it doesn't apply to general contracts arrangements. It doesn't apply to general sales transactions. So that's why most taxpayers are actually thinking that the Stamp Duties Act will be quite punitive for them.
Indeed, not even at this time where Nigeria is grappling with COVID-19. We've seen reports saying that Nigeria, one way or the other, might still slip into recession. The finance minister has said that despite all of the efforts by government. Now, how well do you see government making money? Let's just use that word, making more money from taxation. Since we say we want to look non-oil, taxation is one of the ways to go. Yeah. How do we leverage? Is that an issue of the chicken before the egg, or because many want to see what government has been doing even with what has been paid already?
Yes.
That's one big issue, and I'm always referring to Lagos. It's a state where you can always say one or two things and say, yes, I can see what government is doing with my money. Yeah. So what do you think government can do? They need to win the confidence and not force people to pay tax.
Okay, so, tax in itself is a social contract, and what we have observed is that countries where citizens get benefits for tax they've paid, yes, they are generally more tax compliant. So that's why you see those countries continue to develop. So, but we then need to start from somewhere. So fine, we can say government has not done a lot. So, but if we can continue to do that, it means we will never start at any point. So we need to start somewhere. We need to decide today whether I want to start today, and then citizens should be more tax compliant, and then we also hold government responsible to ensure that they also fulfill their own parts of the bargain.
Now that government is giving a lot of little leeways for companies to be able to thrive, we'll see some reducing, shifting and giving a lot of timings and all of that. What positives do you see that in the entire business environment? That is what I'm looking at. So
I think the palliatives that have been granted due to COVID-19 pandemic has actually been a good pointer for taxpayers. They've seen that the tax authority is now more concerned and more and interested in their well-being. It's also shown government's commitment to businesses in Nigeria. You can see state governors all over Nigeria also giving similar palliatives. Indeed. So this is actually a very a good step in the right direction, and we hope that this will also allow taxpayers to be more tax compliant.
Indeed, because that's where we should get to, where people are willing to pay, and like the example I cited now. Now, would you agree, or I don't know, you're a professional. We hear everywhere, we're journalists, and we talk to people, we interview people send us messages, and they complain about multiple taxation. It's now a common word, and multiple taxation, you're paying this, another person is coming, the FRS is getting this, the state comes for this, people say, how can they cope? They're not making a lot of money, they have to, it's a big issue. Now, how does it come to you, the issue of multiple taxation? And where do you see, how do you see Nigeria addressing this? Let's know which is which.
Okay, I would like to first address what multiple taxation is.
Okay.
So multiple taxation is actually a situation where you pay tax on the same income more than once. Yeah. So, but what we have, so we don't have that in Nigeria because we don't have situations where people pay tax on the same income more than once. So what we have in Nigeria is actually multiplicity of tax. So meaning you get to pay different types of taxes to different government agencies at different levels of government. So that's what we have in Nigeria. So, we may not be able to do away with that for now. So because really, those different levels of government have responsibilities to collect those taxes and levies that they collect. So, but what we can encourage is harmonizing those taxes into a bucket. For instance, local governments can decide to harmonize all of those different taxes and levies into one singular taxes and levies, so that when you pay it as a business owner, you know that you have complied and you have also fully complied, because there are instances where you miss out on one or two, and then you run afoul of the law.
The issue of automation becomes very important here. We're trying to reduce human face, direct transaction, facing people and running your transactions. How well do you see government keying into it? I have this card, tax clearance card.
Okay,
I don't think it used to be like that before. So I think they're also moving a step ahead. But how well are we doing when it comes to automating our processes with regards to taxation? I have my card so that I do not have tax compliant.
All right.
Paying my tax.
All right. So automation is the way forward. Actually, that's the way forward. Because in the current age that we are, IT is actually enhancing a lot of processes, and tax compliance should be one of those processes. And in fact, in more developed countries, the entire tax process is fully automated from start to payment. So it's fully automated. So and this also allows for transparency, and then even the tax authorities are more confident that taxpayers have paid fully the taxes that they should pay. So this is what we should move towards automation. So some of the tax authorities have actually tried to adopt some form of automation or the other. So we've seen them adopt automation for filing of returns in some instances. So some automation is in form of payment. So, but we need this to be all encompassing from start to finish, so that the whole system is seamless for taxpayers.
Indeed. Let's just round up in 60 seconds now. What more do you expect from the regulators, from us as taxpayers? What are your expectations moving on, despite the COVID-19 challenges?
All right. So with COVID-19 in the picture now, tax authorities need to show more concern to taxpayers, like they've been doing already, and taxpayers also need to understand that even though COVID-19 is around and is knocking everybody hard, government's also not immune. Global oil prices are falling, and government needs money to survive and continue to run the economy. So I would encourage everybody in the general tax system to just we should all work together towards improving the tax system.
Indeed, a professional taxman will always want everyone to pay tax so that the business can keep going. Thank you very much, Mr. Olufunso Ola-Ojo, Director of Tax and Regulatory Services at Mazars Nigeria.
Nigeria, yeah.
Hope to see you again soon on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then.
All right, yeah.